Reports obtained by the Washington Post show an amazingly disturbing trend in police departments using civil forfeiture laws to buy things like guns, armored cars, surveillance gear, luxury cars, travel, and even a clown. Yes, you heard that. A clown. These reports were obtained from Freedom of Information Act requests dating from 2008 show that billions of dollars in spending coming from cash and property seizures, in which, of course, no indictment was filed against the property owners. Now, according to analysis by the Post, quote, of the nearly $2.5 billion in spending reported in the forms, 81% came from cash and property seizures under something called the Equitable Sharing Fund. They also note that according to the law, you have to prove your money or property was acquired legally in order to get back. Sort of guilty before proven innocent. At least your stuff is. According to the Post, some of the purchases include Humvees, automatic weapons, gas grenades, night vision scopes and sniper gear, electronic surveillance equipment, including automated license plate readers, and systems that track cell phones. Not only that, but you also have a $5 million helicopter for the LAPD, a mobile command bus costing more than $1 million for Prince George's County. You also have an APC for a town named Douglasville, Georgia, which has a population of about 32,000 people. Pretty sure you don't need an armored personnel carrier to take on a town of that size. There's also nearly $5,000 spent for a sheriff's award banquet in New Mexico and a $637 coffee maker for the Randall Sheriff's County Department in Amarillo, Texas. A $637 coffee pot. What's next? Gold Fleck donuts? Seriously. Now, I mentioned that they also hired a clown. Reminderville, Ohio Chief Jeff Buck hired Sparkles the Clown to improve community relations. Hey, you know what would also improve community relations? Not seizing people's property and using it to buy a $600 coffee pot. Now, of course, Buck went on to defend the program by saying, quote, the money I spent on Sparkles the Clown is a very, very minute portion of the forfeited money that I spend on fighting the war on drugs. Now, of course, these guys are going to come out and defend what is essentially a police slush fund at this point. And so, even though it's clearly unconstitutional, these seizures, your property is still essentially guilty until proven innocent. And then, of course, they'll take your property and money and buy clowns with it. Now, the Post continues. There have been 61,998 cash seizures on highways and elsewhere since 9/11 without search warrants or indictments and processed through the Equitable Sharing Program. Now, they're only supposed to use this funding from these seizures for law enforcement purposes only, quote unquote. Except with all the billions of dollars in property and money being seized, they don't have nearly enough oversight. Maybe they should have spent a little bit on some auditors. For example, there are only about 15 people at the Justice Department overseeing the entire program. 15 people for a $2.5 billion seizure. And that was just, last year. Only 5 of those people review the annual reports for discrepancies. The Justice Department's Inspector General's offices have conducted about 25 audits on spending since 2008. They examined more than $18 million in equitable sharing spending, and that's roughly about 1% of the money spent during that time. And of that, they are challenging millions of dollars in spending as unsupported or unallowable. 0.75% of the spending. And of that, they find millions of dollars spent on things that are, quote, unsupported and unallowable. So not only are they taking people's money and property despite having no basis to do so, remember, you don't need to have been indicted for a crime, but they're also buying needless shit. Or worse, stuff they can use against you, like armored vehicles, Bearcats, MRAPs, you name it, tactical gear, guns, assault weapons, all that to be used against you. That's gear made for war. And when there's no war out there, they bring the war to the streets. Remember Ferguson? All right. So I want to give you examples of some needless shit that they bought. A 30-day subscription to High Times. Now there's some irony right there. Buying a magazine for stoners with money that's most likely taken from seizures related to the drug war. That's some irony, man. How about a new car? Yes, a new car. According to the reports, dozens of new and used sports cars were purchased with this money, including 15 Mercedes, a dozen Mustangs, and a handful of BMWs, as well as 2 Corvettes. What about vacations, like to ski resorts? In Mesa County, Colorado, the sheriff's office paid for 20 lawyers to attend a conference at the Keystone Ski Resort. You know how much that cost? Nearly $80,000. It's amazing. Look, this is why cops love the war on drugs, and why you should be against it, and why you should also be against civil forfeiture laws. They're, at the very least, wasting your money on bullshit, and at the worst, becoming even more and more militarized, getting more military gear so that they can use it against you. For example, a lot of these police departments and sheriff's offices are buying, once again, M4 assault rifles, Bearcats, cell phone trackers, and a number of other things that they shouldn't even have. And they're doing it with assets stolen from you. A lot of this is enabled by the drug war. And I think that's why, no matter your stance on drugs, no matter your stance on legalization or anything like that, the fact is that we have to end this drug war. We have to.